Loneliness. It's one of those words that sounds simple, but it holds a weight that many of us feel deep down. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. Loneliness can find its way into anyone's life. And today, in this hyper-connected world, it's almost ironic how easy it is to feel alone. So how did we end up here? Why is it that in a world where we can instantly message someone across the globe, loneliness feels more present than ever? To really understand, we need to take a step back in time. Just a few decades ago, life looked a little different. People would spend evenings on their front porches chatting with neighbors, or they'd meet up at local clubs just to be around other people. Friendship was built over time, through shared experiences and the simple act of being together, in person. Fast forward to now. Instead of front porches, we've got smartphones. Instead of sitting with a friend at a cafe, we're scrolling through endless feeds, watching snippets of each other's lives. We think we're staying connected because we see what others are up to. But is it really connection if all we're doing is consuming carefully curated snapshots? We're constantly comparing our lives to those little fragments, wondering if everyone else is happier, more fulfilled, and that comparison, it only makes us feel more alone. And here's the thing. Loneliness isn't just about being alone. It's about feeling unseen, feeling like no one truly gets you. And as humans, we crave that understanding. It's in our DNA to want to belong. A study published in Science found that loneliness activates the same parts of the brain as physical pain. Yes, loneliness actually hurts, in a very real, very physical way. Why? Because as a species, we are wired for connection. For thousands of years, our survival depended on being part of a group. In ancient times, being isolated from the tribe could mean life or death. Fast forward to today, and while the stakes may not seem as high, our brains haven't caught up. That's why when we feel disconnected, we experience this profound sense of unease. It's our biology nudging us, reminding us of how essential relationships are. But here's where it gets complicated. In our modern world, we often find ourselves too busy to make time for those relationships. Work, responsibilities, the constant stream of information, all of it competes for our attention. And slowly, without realizing it, we start to lose touch even with the people who matter most. Think about this. Studies show that over 30% of adults in several countries report feeling lonely most or all of the time. This is not just a passing feeling. It's a public health issue. Loneliness is linked to higher risks of depression, anxiety, and even heart disease. Psychologist Julianne Holt-Lundstad found that having strong social ties can lower the risk of early death as much as quitting smoking. In other words, connection isn't just a nice-to-have. It's a must-have for our mental, emotional, and physical health. So why is it so hard to make these connections, especially as adults? We know we need it, but somehow reaching out feels daunting. Part of it is fear. Fear of being rejected, of not being seen, of opening up only to be met with indifference. And part of it is just time, or more accurately, the lack of it. We get caught up in routines, and before we know it, weeks, months, even years can pass without really connecting with others. But it doesn't have to be this way. Building a support network doesn't mean you need a huge group of friends. In fact, research shows that just a few meaningful connections can make all the difference. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. And that quality, it comes from shared experiences, from being vulnerable, from being real. Now you might be thinking, where do I even start? The idea of putting yourself out there might feel intimidating, especially if loneliness has been a part of your life for a while. But often the first step is the hardest. It could be something as simple as joining a class, volunteering, or reconnecting with an old friend. Each of these actions may seem small on their own, but collectively, they create opportunities for real, genuine connections to form. When you take those small steps, when you push yourself to engage, you'll start to notice something beautiful happen. You'll find belonging. Belonging is like an anchor. It keeps us steady when life gets stormy. And the beauty of it is, it doesn't take much to find. Sometimes just a shared smile, a moment of understanding is enough to remind us that we're not alone. In fact, there's an interesting study conducted by Dr. Vivek Murthy, the former U.S. Surgeon General. He found that loneliness was as harmful to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Think about that. Our bodies, our minds, they thrive on connection. When we're surrounded by supportive people, our health, both physical and mental, improves. We heal faster, we cope better, and we feel more motivated to tackle life's challenges. Now here's a small challenge for you. Think of one person you can reach out to today. Maybe it's someone you haven't spoken to in a while, or someone you know might be feeling a little lonely themselves. It doesn't have to be a big, dramatic gesture. Sometimes, just a simple message, "Hey, how are you?" can make all the difference. Because loneliness can be contagious, but so can connection. Imagine if every person watching this reached out to just one other person. That's how we start breaking down the walls. We're all part of this larger web of people who want to feel seen, valued, understood. Breaking the cycle of loneliness takes courage. It takes vulnerability. But once you take that first step, you'll find that others are often just as eager to connect as you are. Remember, we're all more alike than we think. We all want to be part of something bigger, to feel that we belong. And if you're feeling lonely, know this. It's not your story, it's just a chapter. Chapters change, and so can yours. Take that small step, make that call, send that message, because loneliness doesn't have to be a permanent part of your life. With every reach, every small connection, you're writing a new chapter. One filled with hope, understanding, and most importantly, connection. So, as we wrap up, I want you to remember, you're not alone in this. Loneliness is a part of life that nearly everyone will experience at some point. But just because you feel alone, it doesn't mean you are alone. There are people out there who are looking for the same thing as you. Someone to talk to, someone to trust, someone who gets it. Start small. Look up from your phone, smile at someone, strike up a conversation. It might feel awkward at first, but that's okay. You're building something real, something lasting. Connection takes time, but every effort you make brings you closer to a life filled with people who genuinely care about you. And for anyone who feels like this is an impossible journey, remember that change begins with just one step. You're braver than you know, and you have so much to offer. Don't let loneliness convince you otherwise. Thank you for watching, and remember, you're not alone on this path. We're all in this together, looking for connection, understanding, and belonging. Let's make the world feel a little less lonely, one small step at a time.